time for another list of rereads. Alright guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Zach with Zacks Books, and today I've got a reread list again. In this edition, I am referring to thriller books. If you have not seen the horror edition, check it out up here, or we'll have it posted in the description box down below. Also down there is podcast and all the other stuff we have going on. It's very exciting things. We will also have these 5 books linked down below as well. Check them out if these intrigue you. So without further ado, let's get into the list. Alright, first book up is No Exit by Taylor Adams. So, this book was really exciting for me to read, and I thoroughly enjoyed everything about it. It's about this young woman who gets a phone call saying like her mom's sick, but like this from her sister, and the sister doesn't want her to be there, but she wants to go and see what's going on. And so she goes, she gets caught in this giant blizzard and ends up at a, it's a rest stop. I want to make sure it's a rest stop in the book. This actually just got released as like a movie on Hulu, and that's a big reason why this is on my reread list, because the movie seemed to do a couple things a little different than I can remember in the book, and I just want to reread the book because it was really good, A, and B, because I want to see what differences there were. But it was definitely a very entertaining movie, but the book by far was better. I pictured everything way better in the book. There are just certain little changes that I just like didn't see coming or like didn't expect within the movie. Not saying that they were bad, but they just kind of like, I didn't picture it the way that the book had described it. So, but that's usually how it always goes. But yes, I'm very excited. I really want to get to this book. It's so good. And I definitely would recommend this book to you guys. So, first book I would like to reread, No Exit by Taylor Adams. Alright, next up is Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. So, this book, I've read all of Riley Sager's books. Final Girls, The Last Time I Lied, Survive the Night, which was just released, and Home Before Dark, and then this one, Lock Every Door. And the first 2 I mentioned, it almost in like publication order for me. That's kind of like the tier list I have for him. Final Girls being the worst, and Survive the Night kind of tied with Home Before Dark as my favorite. But I think Lock Every Door to me is a book that has contention to actually be in the top spot. But what I can recall, this book is about a woman who goes and starts living in this apartment, and mysterious things kind of start happening in her apartment, and she befriends this dude, and he ends up being really sus, and it's like, it's really weird. The ending is like what got me, and it was just so good. And I personally think that this book can be, I don't know if I gave this 5 stars. I might have. I think it might have been a 4. But this book has definitely got potential to be a 5-star book, by what I can remember. So, I think out of the 3 Riley Sagers that are in my top for him, I definitely think this has potential to leapfrog the other 2 just because of how good it was. But that's why it's on this list. I need to reread it and see if that's true or not. So, but yeah, very good book. Definitely want to reread this. Lock Every Door, Riley Sager. Alright, the next one is The Plot by Jean Hanff Korelitz. I still don't know if I'm saying that name right. But this book is so good. It's probably one of my top 5 thrillers of all time, if not probably in the top 3. It's at least in my top 5. It's such a weird book. It's about this teacher who is, I think he's a literature teacher, and what happens is one of the students in his class kind of comes across as like a douche, but he writes this beginning to a really phenomenal story, and then the kid dies, and the teacher basically like uses this story to write his own book and becomes like a #1 bestseller, and then he starts getting weird notes, and so it turns into this really twisty book, and it's just so good. I enjoyed pretty much everything about it, and it definitely got 5 stars. There was no chance it was not. I think Danielle read this before I did, and she was like, you need to like stop reading the book you're currently reading and like read this. And it's pretty much what I did. So this book is so good. It's good. I feel like that's why I need to reread this. Just kind of like with the one I had in My Best Friend's Exorcism. Such a really good book, but I just like, it's been a while since I read it, so I feel like I want to read it again. So, same idea. So there you have The Plot by Jean Hanff Corlitz. Alright, next up is Shutter Island by Dennis Leanne. So this book, back when the movie came out, I think it was 2008, 2009, I had seen it with my grandma, and it was it was such a good movie. It had such twists in it. It just felt off. And then I realized that it was actually based off of a book. So I read the book, I think a year or two ago, and I absolutely loved it. It was really good. I also want to read Mystic River by him. That would probably be like an ultimate TBR of like books I just need to read. But Mystic River I also need to read because that movie's good too. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Shutter Island. So this is about a detective who gets brought onto an island with his partner. I think that's what they call him. And he pretty much is on this case of like trying to find a missing patient, and that's literally all I can say about this book because it's got such twists and turns that I couldn't even tell you. Like it's one of those books where it's like if you miss one thing or two things, like you're not going to get it. But like the plot reveal for this book at the end is just ungodly amazing. It's the next book I have here has got a really, really big twist, but like this, I feel like this book almost doesn't get like talked about enough. But I don't know if it's just because of how long ago it was written or what, but this book, in my opinion, definitely needs to be talked about more. So I'm definitely going to need to reread this. So there you have it, Shutter Island by Dennis Leanne. All right, the next one up, I'm going to keep it brief because we still need to do our podcast where we talk about this book. And a lot of you guys are going to say, Zach, you literally just read this book. And I'm going to say, yeah, I know, and that's just how good it is. Gone Girl, Gillian Flynn. Why wouldn't I want to reread this book? It's got such good twists. It's honestly my all-time favorite thriller book of all time. And I said of all time twice. That's just how good it is. Obviously, Danielle and I have our thoughts because she read it for the first time too this year. And we are still planning to do our beginning spoiler-free, more than likely not going to be spoiler-free podcast episode for it. So that is still in the works. So just stay patient with us. A lot of things are going on. But this book is so good. If you don't, there's like hardly anything I can even say about this book to describe it. You're following this guy named Nick Dunn, and pretty much what happens is one morning it's his anniversary with his wife. They have breakfast together. He goes to the bar that him and his sister co-own, I think. No, Amy owns it. Amy's the wife. And he comes home. There's a giant mess in the house, and Amy is missing. And nobody knows what's going on. And that's literally all I can say. They literally can't say anything else about the book, otherwise it'd spoil everything. But at this point, unfortunately, like Danielle and I, if you have not read this or have seen the movie, what are you doing? So, I definitely am going to need to relook at this book, and I literally finished it, and I think I told Danielle I want to reread it again, start it back up. So there you have Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. All right, so those are my top 5 thriller rereads that I would like to reread. Not a Happy Family by Sherry Lapina is another one that I would definitely want to readdress, just because it was just basically just like Knives Out. It was such a good book, but just doesn't quite crack my top 5 here. But yeah, all these books will have linked down below if any of them are intriguing to you, or if you have read any of them, make sure you let me know in the comments your thoughts on them, spoiler free if you can. But yeah, as always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to see you guys in the next video. Later.